What's up, and welcome to episode 162 of Life in Motion. I've got Sara and Morgan with me from Wild and Free Mamas. As you can guess, they're both moms, and they find no better way to reset than a good old outdoor adventure. Their mission is also to inspire others to get outside, find new connections by going on trips and meeting new people, of course. I'm also thrilled to announce that Wild and Free Mamas is August's nonprofit partner, which means 20% of all online sales from illumincollect.com will be donated to support their mission. I'm excited to learn about their impact and what the community collection means to them. Both of you, thanks for being on the show again.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Yes. I'm glad, I don't know when our first connection was in the first episode that we did together, but I really enjoyed what you all were doing. So I'm really excited to partner with you all this month. But for those who might have missed the original episode, let's do a quick little background of each of you all and then kind of how that builds into, what y'all are doing.
I'll go first. My name's Sara, and I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I grew up always loving the outdoors. I used to take long walks down the country roads, played in the woods as a kid. I spent a lot of my summers at summer camp, and that is where my love for the outdoors really started, and it's kind of stayed with me my whole life, and just what I love to do and how I connect with God and recenter myself. I've got 2 kids, and we live in Greenville, South Carolina.
A little way from Lancaster there. And then how about you, Morgan?
Yep, I grew up in Georgia. I actually didn't spend any time outside as a kid. I was a latchkey kid and couldn't even ride a bike. Oh, bless my tiny heart. But I met my husband when I was in high school. We did a lot of really fun, adventure-y things together, and it just really awakened a part of me that I didn't even know existed before then. And so he and I adventured a ton in college and then shortly thereafter. And Sara and I met when we were both living in Charleston, South Carolina. We attended the same church together, and she invited me to be a part of her mom's group. And so I did, and we developed a friendship. And even though we both moved away, I'm back in Georgia now. And like Sara said, she's still in South Carolina, just a different area. We kept up with each other. And so we both went out west for separate trips several years ago, and just had amazing life-changing experiences. I was in the Grand Canyon. Sara was in Valley of Fire. And we came back and started talking about how amazing and life-giving being outside, being in nature with God, remembering that you're not actually the center of the story, that you just get to be a part of the story. You're not actually the one in control and spinning all the plates, because as moms, that's a lie that we really buy into. That you don't have to spin the plates. You can just rest. You can be. You couldn't have created that mountain even if you tried really hard. So we both came home, got to talking, and Wild and Free Mamas was born.
That's awesome. And it's cool how you all growing up have different kind of stories as far as you not necessarily being outdoorsy, you more so, Sara. And then of course, kind of the serendipity of you all both meeting when you both lived in the same state. And now I think you're 3 or 4 hours away from each other and doing that. And of course, kind of those whole 2 separate experiences that you had, they're like, hey, maybe there's something to this. So, it sounds like that trip, or separate trips, I should say, kind of sparked that idea for Wild and Free Mamas. But before that, I mean, I guess, like, did you kind of take a step back and be like, I guess where did you find, like, where that the benefit might be the wrong word, but really where you found the value of getting outside, knowing, with your kids, all the craziness. I've 3, 4 and under, so I get it. Just the other parent in this case, but where did that like connection like really kind of establish itself, opposed to, I'm just going to binge watch next Netflix or something to relax. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'll take this one, Sara. So at least from my perspective, I'd love to hear what you have to say. But I had 4 kids in 4 years, and life was insane. There are big chunks of those years that I just don't even remember, because that's just how you survive. And so that season of my life was spent poured out for the people around me, and honestly still is. Just it's a little bit different now that everybody can wipe their own butts.
It gets easier then.
It does. It's so much fun now. Let me just tell you.
I'm not there yet. I'm close.
You'll make it. It's really fun on this side of the butt wiping thing. But yeah, so I spent my life poured out and really wanting to be there. Like I know that I was called to that as a mom. But when I took this trip out west, I spent 6 days in a raft on the Grand Canyon. And it was like a part of me kind of woke back up. I had been hunkered down for years, just trying to make things happen, trying to take care of everybody, fixing that vomit and this fever, and oh my goodness, everybody needs dinner, and David's getting home, crap, we have to panic clean, all of these, just being on this hamster wheel, but not really taking a minute to breathe and to step back and to remember who I am and also whose I am. Again, I was spinning all the plates, instead of leaning on God for that. And so when I was in the Grand Canyon, it was like the Lord woke me up to that. And I remembered who I am. I remembered that I'm not actually in control anyway. So I can find a lot more peace if I stop trying to be in control. Going home seemed really overwhelming after that trip. And I knew I couldn't go home the same way that I had left home. I love my family. There was never any fear of that. I want to go home, but I needed to go home different. I needed to go home and remember who I am, who God is, and try to bring as many moms along into that as I can. What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, Morgan and I have different experiences when it comes to this, and I love that. We bring two different stories to the table. For me, I had my kids a little bit older than Morgan, and so I knew when I had them, like, I did not want to get lost in motherhood, because I was looking at around a lot of my peers, and I was seeing them be super lost in motherhood. And so right away from the get-go, I knew that I didn't want to follow that path. I wanted to do whatever it took to not lose myself and take care of myself as a mom, because when we take care of ourselves, we become better moms. And I think that that's so forgotten in our society now, with the mom guilt of like, oh, I can't take a break. I can't go out with my friends because that makes me a bad mom. It's the complete opposite. So with our two perspectives coming together, we really just have this passion to, remind people not to get lost in motherhood. And Morgan has the story of sharing how to come out of that.
Yeah. And before you do, I mean, that's great. And I totally get it. Especially, I guess, speaking from the husband's perspective, like right now, all my kids are, one's 18 months, the 18-month-old, they want to talk, but they can't talk. So they get frustrated all the time. And then, like I said, the oldest is 4, but if it's just dad at home, everything's fine. But as soon as mom's home, it's mom, 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 do this. Like I just disappear, and it's like, I don't know what to do. They like, so not that I'm in your shoes, but I see it obviously from the other spectrum of that. And I totally agree to your point too, Sarah, or I guess both of your points, that, in order to be, the best person, whether it's in your family, faith, or friends, or all that stuff, I mean, you need to be able to take care of yourself first, to do that. So, and then I think, Sarah, you kind of queued up, kind of how you all took those experiences and kind of that time to reset, but then actually not get back into the same routine, which I know is hard to do as well, after you have, that week-long trip or whatever, to go back home. So I guess, how was that mind change, when you got home? And then I guess leading that up to is like, hey, there's something here. Like, how do we help not just us and our families, but other moms out there as well?
We kind of just hit the ground running, didn't we, Morgan? We both started delivering pizzas for Papa John's to save our money and take trips. And I mean, we talked for hours a day for a really long time on what this could be and how we could inspire moms. And then we started planning our trips that summer. So back then, it wasn't, Wild and Free Mamas wasn't what it is now. We weren't taking people on weekend retreats, but we knew, but the heart was there, the vision was there. When you say, Morgan?
Yeah, Sarah always, right at the very beginning, I would say I was a much smaller dreamer, when it came to Wild and Free Mamas. I was afraid of a lot of Sarah's ideas. Sarah, from the very beginning, I don't know if you've heard of the Marco Polo app, but I'm on it a lot with Sarah. And I just went back a couple days ago and went all the way back to the very beginning. It's like, was it 2019, Sarah?
Yep.
Sarah's my math person. 2019, I went all the way back to right when when we both got home from our trips. And Sarah was already talking about we called them meetups in the very beginning. We would do these meetups, and we would, put it out on a Facebook. We would make an event on Facebook and say, hey, we're going to go do this hike at this place, at this time of day. Bring your snacks, bring your friends. We'll meet you there. And Sara had that vision from the very beginning, and I was afraid of it. But I decided to trust her. I was like, well, I mean, the worst that could happen is me and Sara get to go on a hike together. So let's just do it. Why not? And we started small. I think our very first one, we had 2 women. The next one after that, we had 6. After that, it was 9. And then it just continued to grow. And then before too long, again, Sara suggested that we do overnights. And so we started moving into overnights. And then pretty soon after that, the ministry focus came in to Wild and Free Mamas, and we started doing devotionals around the campfire and praying for women. And it's been a really, really wild and really fun ride. So thank you for all your visions, Sara. I'm sorry I was afraid.
Well, it sounds like you all are the perfect yin and yang to each other, complements with the 2 personalities and kind of traits and that kind of stuff to really make this thing kind of come to life. And so you mentioned, it kind of started off as, the meetups, Facebook groups, that kind of stuff, or events. I guess when it started, were there, I guess, like, for instance, you said there was 2 women that came the first time. Were those people that you knew already, or somebody that kind of stumbled upon you? Like, what was that like, I guess, growing that? Because like you mentioned in the beginning, like, as a mom, you felt like all the plates were in there, you're spinning them all, and you don't want to leave that because then you're, and this is air quotes, quote unquote, a bad mom. So I'm sure for some people, like, getting over that kind of mental block, that shouldn't be there, but it's still a challenge. So, like, I guess how did you all work through that? Because obviously, as you mentioned, you've grown in to different types of trips and a number of people and all that stuff.
Yeah, so the first people that came to our first meetup, we didn't know them. They found us through Facebook. But I would say the first 2 years, maybe even 3 years of us doing overnight retreats have been what I call our soft market. So friends or friends of friends. But what has happened is, we're growing on Instagram, and then the people that come are sharing their experiences, and we have a podcast now. So this year we are seeing huge growth from women that are just finding us organically, which is really exciting. And I think it's because they are seeing these other women having this experience, and they're like, oh, I need that. That they're giving themselves permission to do that. I can do that too. And so we've just seen the demand for it, I don't know, really grow.
I would say that I think some women have been watching for a little while, seeing other people go on these trips. And you know how it is, if you're not maybe an early adopter or whatever, you got to watch it for a little while. You got to make sure that this is something good, that this is something okay. And so I feel like we've had several women who've been watching us for quite a while, watching other women brave enough to take that step, brave enough to say, yes, I can go do this thing for myself. I can take 36 hours away from my family. They're going to be okay. So I think watching a bunch of other women be brave and take that first step empowers this next group of women who we don't know as well. And I think over half of which, so far this year, all the trips we've run, over half of the women that have come basically found us on Instagram or our podcast or something like that. We have no idea who they are, where they came from, but we love to get to invest in them and serve them and take them on these really fun, wild trips. But they've been watching over here, and now they've been brave enough to take that first step. So it's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like, permission seems like too, like, I don't know, too formal of a word, but to your point, seeing photos of you 2 gave permission. Hey, they're giving themselves permission to do that. And then a couple other more women kind of trickle in and more. And like you said, they're watching this the whole way, like, well, whatever, they're doing it, so why can't I do it too? And type of deal. So I guess let's talk a little bit more about the different the trips and stuff, because I guess how frequent are there? And then I guess, obviously there's the trip, there's everything that goes along with that, the relationships that are built there. But how does that, like, what does that look like post trip? Like is there kind of any, like, I guess, are there steps after that for everyone to kind of stay involved and keep that, I guess, encouragement up for, their local trips if they're not going with a big group or whatever?
So we run about 6 trips a year. It's a little bit variable. I think last year was 5. there's a potential for next year to be 7. It's kind of around 6. We don't really like to be cold, so we go we go from April through October, and we skip a couple of really busy months in there. Um, but yeah, so 6-ish trips a year, and we put our trips out on our website for people to sign up for about 6 weeks in advance, so they can sign up for the trip. And once those spots are taken, then the trip closes, and then we add those women to a what's the name of the app, Sarah? Yeah, we add them to a group me group. And so they're able to go ahead and start chatting with each other before the trips, kind of get to know each other. We send out information and packing lists and stuff like that there. And then we go on these super fun trips, which Sarah, you can describe those a little bit in a second if you want to. And then afterwards, when we come home, what we've seen this year, which has been really cool, is that those group me groups are staying alive. We've got women from our trip in April who are still chatting with each other and saying, "Hey, how was your daughter's trip to Ireland?" Or, "Hey, can you pray for me over this thing?" Or like sharing inside jokes back and forth. I mean, it's August, right? And these women from April who didn't know each other before that April trip, are still chatting, still hanging out with each other. We've seen some of our girls who've been around for a little while, a season or two, who've come on several trips. They're now going camping with their families outside of Wild and Free Mamas, which is really cool.
That's awesome to that community lasting past, that weekend or that trip or whatnot. I think is really important, and obviously kind of a big part of what you all are doing. So it's cool to like be able to see that, like you mentioned, the chat still going on, sharing updates and jokes and everything in between. So and then Sarah, do you want to speak a little bit about the different trips? I guess what somebody could expect if they're looking at your website or whatnot to be a part of it.
Yeah, sure. So we have 6 unique adventures this year, but the format and experience is going to be pretty much the same. We have everybody meet us at a campground, whichever campground we're at that weekend. We set up camp together, so that's really a unique experience to team build and have people set up tents. Some of them have never set up a tent, never camped, so that's always a fun time. And then we usually we have lunch, and then we'll go on a hike, and then we'll just hang out around the campfire, play games. We'll have like a devotional time where we can really share. And that's such a special time. This is really actually the heartbeat of our weekend, the time when it gets dark and everybody's just around the fire and we're able to share our hearts. And it's a safe place. We've really worked hard to create a culture of safety and inclusion. And it's just a place where women can be met with no judgments and really share what's going on in their lives. And it's really hard to actually explain what happens around the campfire. It's very, very special time of encouraging one another and speaking truth to each other and reminding each other of who we are, like Morgan has said, who we are and whose we are. And then we'll wake up the next morning. Morgan will make us yummy coffee. We have these this year we got, what are they? Propane run coffee makers. So
Yeah,
Oh
that's,
yeah,
propane coffee makers, they are legit.
that's
yeah.
gonna be danger. We'll have coffee and breakfast, and then we'll head out on our adventure. So this year we've done canoeing, caving. We saw 24 waterfalls in 24 hours. We rappelled down a 200-foot waterfall. We're going whitewater rafting, and then in October, we're going horseback riding.
All different speeds of adventures to meet different people where they are. My favorite adventure is the rappelling down the 200-foot waterfall, but not everybody's down for that. So we want to have some slower stuff too.
That's cool. I mean, all those adventures sound awesome, and it's cool. Like you said, there's different kind of levels to it. I guess from the intimidation factor for the activity itself, but um, it's cool to hear too. Like you mentioned devotional and stuff like during the campfire and everything that the people that are participating do feel comfortable to open up about whatever that might be. And I of course you said you can't, it's hard to explain, but I kind of understand like what you're saying, just like by where you're saying I'm pitching, because everybody's afraid to say anything nowadays about how they feel, all this stuff. And so it's cool that you're creating that space to kind of once again sort of give permission, I guess. Just, y'all keep giving everybody permission for good things. So it's cool to hear that, that those stories from that, and kind of, like I said, everything that has grown from it. So kind of like during this journey, like from the beginning, and everything, like what has been sort of like the outside support, from kind of, hey, peace family, I'm leaving for a couple of days, kind of that, so from, the husband standpoint or partner standpoint or whatnot, but also, as word kind of kept getting out as far as, hey, what you're doing, and then this person hears it and this person hears it. What is kind of that like support been, along the journey?
Our husbands have been incredibly supportive, and we wouldn't be able to do any of this without their support. They are our biggest cheerleaders. It's a sacrifice for them what we do, and they are behind us 100%. And so I just wanted to say that at the top, they're the best
Yeah.
supporters. But Morgan, you go ahead.
Our husbands really have been the number one supporters since day one. Heck, sometimes, most of the time, I even come home to a clean house. And I'm just going to be perfectly honest and open here and tell you, I don't leave a clean house. I'm not very good at keeping a clean house. So that is its own kind of blessing and love from him.
I can
Um,
appreciate that.
so yeah, our husbands are awesome. They not only have they, invested in the time and staying with kids. I like we said, I have 4. Sarah has 2. It's a lot of kids to stay home with. They do that. They keep our little worlds running here on this side. David, my husband, helps me keep up all of our gear. We've got how many tents do we have now? 4 or 5. We've got 7 tents, and a bunch of sleeping bags, and 2 propane coffee makers and stoves and all kinds of gear that we maintain. And David helps me with a lot of that. But not only that, but both of our husbands own businesses, and they have invested as a business into Wild and Free Mamas. They're some of our sponsors this year. So this is our first year having actual sponsors for Wild and Free Mamas, which is really fun. So Palmetto Pools is Sarah's husband's business, and Verdery Forest Management is my husband's business. And both of them are 2 of our six sponsors this year, I think.
One of our strongest main supporters since the get-go has been Keith and Carrie Cothran. They are our, I would say, mentors. They're my pastors, and they have supported us financially, and they paid for us to get our nonprofit status. They've just been a huge blessing. Keith and Carrie and the Grove Church, but also Morgan, like Morgan said, we've got our sponsors this year, and then just individual donations from people have helped. We, as we grow, the budget grows, and so fundraising has been a tricky thing for us, but.
Well, it's good. It's good to, obviously, that your husbands have been on board since day one, which is awesome. Going back to the clean house thing, like once we had kids, I was like, there's no point anymore. Like I feel like they all have to get like to the point where they can clean their own house, but we're also not there yet. So just kind of like forget about the toys at all. Anyways, but then also so I'm envious of that, I guess is what I'm saying. But it's cool to see the community support as well, as far as people outside the organization, obviously other businesses, that kind of stuff. And it's cool, that I don't know if buy-in's the right word, but the buy-in to what you're doing, and seeing the importance of it. And you mentioned, that whole decked out garage or wherever you're keeping all that equipment. I mean, that stuff isn't inexpensive, but they're essential things that you need, especially as you grow and get more people to come out with you. So I guess that brings a question like, what can something like the community collection, obviously this is our first time working together, but what does it mean to you all to kind of in your growth and kind of continue things?
I mean, this has been really exciting for us, and we just appreciate so much that sometime last year you reached out to us and you saw the value in what we were doing, and we were over the moon to be on your podcast. Like, just getting the support from you has been huge, and this, it helps get the word out. It helps create awareness, and then obviously the financial support is incredible to us. So
I love that it's named the community collection. I think that's perfect because Wild and Free Mamas, we're working really hard to form this community of moms who love each other, support each other, lift each other up, remind each other of truth. Um, but we couldn't do this without the community of sponsors and people who love us and love what we're doing and invest in that. And so with the community collection along with that, it's really cool because the people who do love us and do want to be a part of things, part of Wild and Free Mamas, this is a very easy way for them to buy in. Like you said a few minutes ago, Jeremy, this is a very easy way for them to support us, is to see these awesome shirts that we are partnering with you to create. Love that, buy that, share it on all their socials. They get to wear something really cool. I love the design. It's so much fun. So they get to wear something really cool, feel like they're supporting something that they love, and they are supporting something that they love. So it's just all the community joining hands and singing Kumbaya. And I love it so much.
And kind of to your point, like what we want to do is obviously help raise funds for you as well. But you mentioned too, Sarah, like the awareness, like we want to shed light on these organizations like yourselves that are out there doing good things within their own community, and kind of say, hey, look at them. So hopefully this month will be successful and be able to help you out. And as mentioned in the beginning, you can find the collection at lumencollect.com, and also any of the other gear on there. 20% of that will also go to you all as well. So definitely check that out. But before we wrap things up, where can people find you online, socials, website, get involved with some trips, volunteer, donate, all that good stuff?
They can go to wildandfreemamas.com. That's MAMAS. And we also have Facebook, Instagram, and we have our retreats listed online. There's only one more that's going to open up this year, but we will start back our season next April. So definitely encourage those interested to follow us on Instagram to keep in the loop with all of the info.
Everyone, definitely make sure you check out their website, check out their podcast, their content, their trips, of course, and definitely join if you can, or join a trip if you can, because it sounds like I know it's an awesome thing that you're all doing. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited to support you all, and of course, I wish you all the best of luck for the rest of the year.